Oh, that doesn't help. I'm Councillor Heather Timms. I'm the Chair of the Scrutiny Committee. The meeting is being web streamed to the public through the Council's YouTube channel, and so when asked to speak, please use the push to talk button on the microphone in front of you. This will allow the camera to pan in your general direction and everyone to hear you. Before we begin the formal agenda, I do need to read the following fire notice. There is no fire drill scheduled for this evening. If the fire alarm sounds, then please could I ask you to make your way out of the building, down the main staircase and out of the main town hall and congregate at the entrance of Caldicott Park. An officer of the council will give instructions on when it is safe to return to the building. Okay, so if we move to the agenda, item 1 is the minutes of the last meeting, and I ask for your approval of those minutes. Everybody happy with that? Okay. Item 2 is apologies, and we have apologies from Councillor Freeman and Councillor Parker. Item 3 is declarations of interest, so to receive declarations of non-pecuniary interests. Any? Pecuniary interests or notice under Section 106 Local Government Finance Act, non-payment of community charge? Nope. All clear on that. Great. So, welcome everybody to this meeting. I really appreciate all of your attendance, particularly from our police colleagues and from our Police and Crime Commissioner. Welcome everybody. And welcome to officers from Rugby Borough Council and the portfolio holders as well. Thank you very much for attending this evening. So, the first item on the agenda is the Community Safety Annual Report, and we've got Paul to present that. Is that right? It is. Okay.
Thank you very much. Chair, members, this is the Annual Community Safety Report, providing an overview of the work of the Rugby Community Safety Partnership over the last year and setting out our forward plan. Reports of antisocial behaviour to the Council increased by 59%. This isn't just a rise in incidents, it reflects proactive patrols by our wardens, encouraging residents to report ASB, and closer working with the police. Operation Resolve brought additional policing resource to the town centre for 12 months, tackling large groups of young people causing disorder. Operation Martin ran during school holidays, with joint patrols of police, wardens and fire service targeting hotspots Thursday to Sunday evenings. On youth violence, the Knife-Free Rugby campaign continued, supported by theatre-based education, VR knife crime sessions with young people and outreach in schools and youth clubs. On violence against women and girls, we extended the Ask Angela campaign in licensed venues, distributed anti-spiking kits and carried out environmental audits in areas where people feel unsafe. We've also supported projects such as Futures Unlocked, which is mentoring ex-offenders with over 40 trained volunteers, Guiding Young Minds, which has supported over 3,500 young people and families around gang and knife crime. Using the Max Mediation Service, we handled 26 cases last year involving 43 households and 62 people. Street pastors supply equipment to support vulnerable people in the nighttime economy, and diversionary activities including hair and beauty sessions for 14-year-olds and above, giving young people qualifications and pathways into further training. Looking forward, it's important to be clear that Rugby CSP has its own local partnership plan for 2025 to 2028, based on our strategic assessment, but aligned with county and national duties. Our Rugby Community Safety Partnership priorities are young people involved in serious violence, with a focus on prevention and exploitation of young people, domestic abuse, tackling repeat perpetrators and increasing reporting, business crime, particularly shoplifting and business burglary, and hate crime across all strands. We also have 2 major cross-cutting themes. These are reducing reoffending and tackling substance misuse. And then alongside these, our local priorities continue to include youth intervention in response to rising ASB, violence against women and girls, given survey findings that many women and girls in rugby do not feel safe, and area-specific action in neighbourhoods with higher deprivation and risk factors. These mirror, but are not identical to the priorities of the Safer Warwickshire Partnership Board's Community Safety Agreement of 2025 to 2029, which sets the county-wide framework. There is a clear golden thread between the two, but Rugby's CSP plan is tailored to our local residents. The appendices of the report for the committee. Appendix 1 is our Rugby CSP Partnership Plan for endorsement. Appendix 2 is the Priority Action Group Terms of Reference for noting. This sets out how we operationalise delivery and track progress. The tracker for the Priority Action Group will be the next step in having that set up. And then Appendix 3 is the Safer Warwickshire Community Safety Agreement, which is for noting and endorsement. And this is the county-wide strategic framework that our local plan contributes to. Chair, that concludes the summary. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Paul. Members, any questions to start us off?
Thank you, Chair. The comment you made about many young women and girls don't feel safe, have we got any idea what sort of things they said and where, times of day, the areas that they felt that and the reasons behind it, what made them feel unsafe, please?
Thank you. It's my understanding that surveys were carried out with local residents and visitors. I do have my operational lead here with me if you have any further information on that. Otherwise, it is definitely something that we can feed back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, during this time, we've actually spoken to residents and there were three main elements that we looked at. Has anything actually happened to you? Has it happened to somebody you know, or is it perception? Because there are three really different ideas, so this really helped us to understand. We did an evening event with the police on 1st of August, and we did the same. Where are the areas? They come up with some areas that they didn't feel safe, so they are the areas that we're going to look at next on what can be done, what can be changed, and if it's perception, the difference between if something has happened to them.
Thank you, Chair. Just a further question. If we could have some information on that, that would be really useful, please, because it'd be nice to know the hotspots, what we can do to rectify that fear, cameras or whatever, better lighting, whatever we can do to help them feel safer in the town and where they go. That would be useful. Thank you.
Yeah, that's definitely put that together. Thank you.
Mike, having about so many families, a multicultural community, have you got any Asian people involved in this, in the complaint?
Apologies, I just missed the very end of the question. Have we got any?
No, any from the Asian community? There were also complaints?
Do we have any particular
Any
data from
on
those
this?
communities?
Yeah.
Thank you. It is something that I can certainly look back at. It's not something that I can answer off the top of my head, but we do have strategic analyses and dashboards that has a lot of data within them. So if you would like me to, that's certainly something that I can put together and get through as a response for the committee. Thank you.
You mentioned perception. I'm really glad that you're addressing perception. Perception is quite an important thing, especially at the moment with a lot of demonstrations and flyers going out with misinformation. And I think this is something we need to look more. I've heard it on the doorstep where people have listened to elements on national news and then giving us those stories back when actually it could be some of the facts could be a little bit distorted and just sort of based on hearsay. So the more we can do on misinformation and disinformation, I think would be a good to do that.
If I can, I will say that the survey was unusual in that it showed much higher levels of perception of crime than actually being involved in it, which is not a surprise in itself. What has been a surprise and has been mirrored with national statistics is actually the number of women that are subject to disturbing low-level activity. And I'm saying low-level only because it isn't any type of assault, etc., but it's comments that are passed and this sort of thing. Women feel uncomfortable because they're walking in the street and they'll have people walking past and making comments and those sort of things. So that's an area that we will have to work on a lot more, not only locally but nationally. And it is quite clearly something that is a social problem that has to be addressed, because women should not be walking the streets and feel unsafe because somebody's going to pass a comment or something like that to them.
I think I was also addressing some of the flyers that have been going around that refer to misinformation, disinformation about the grooming gangs, etc., and how that might be perceived. And the statistics, obviously, we've all looked at UCL studies that show different groups and how they're reflected in terms of paedophilia, etc. So I think it's really important that we look a bit more closely at that, because it is setting off people on the streets. People are a bit concerned, and also it may not even be true.
I'll just help to answer that a little bit. What we've been doing, obviously, with the community wardens, we do go out to areas. If something's been raised that there is a bit of community tension, we will go out, we'll put in patrols, and people come and talk to us. If they raise issues like that, we then signpost them or give them some advice. So we're there to listen to them, because there is that worry. And I know the SNT team do the same, and it's all about that community tension and what we can do just by listening to the residents.
I also think there's an element of providing the correct information, the more factual information out there, because sometimes even we don't know. You know, we're listening to the news, we're taking on certain ideas, we don't know. So I think in terms of how we communicate the factual information, I think is really important.
I've got three questions, if I'm allowed. First one, if I go to youth violence, there's a lot of initiatives you have. What is the one that's had the most measurable impact? What's the one that's had the least? So if you were given more money or less money, where would you put it?
Thank you. If I could pass that to my Chief Officer. Thank you.
I think that's a difficult question, because I don't think that any of the initiatives, and bearing in mind whenever we talk about these things, we're talking about a partnership. This isn't just Rugby Borough Council. And there are a lot of things that we do right from the very start, where individuals are caught messing about in the town centre or something like that, right up to those that are starting to get involved in serious organised crime. You would argue possibly that by the time they get to that point, that's the least effective, because hopefully we would have stopped them before then. But I don't think we can prioritise them, because there is that stepped approach. So, you know, 90%, I mean, I'm using a figure that's probably not correct, but those sort of figures, if you talk to the parents and you talk to the children, they stop. So that's been particularly effective. Then you've got another 10, 20% that might need further action. Then you've got 1% that are really the difficult ones. So I'm not trying to avoid the question, but I'm saying that that stepped approach is the best way of dealing with this, because what we're actually trying to do is avoid the people getting right to the end of that process. And so all the emphasis is put into all of those stages before. And, you know, Claire and the police do things like visit parents. As soon as something, a new person is identified, there will be a joint visit to the parents, usually by Claire and one of the police officers, such as Guy. And that is particularly effective that we've found.
Sorry, just jump in as well. We look at, we can say, right, this is our really important thing at the moment with youth. This is what the trend is, shall we say. Within 3 months, that trend can change very quickly. So if we put all our eggs into one basket and try and just deal with that, we're one step behind them all the time. So us putting all our funding and that into that, we have to make sure that we can change it very quickly into that new trend. So that there's not always through that 12-month period the same problem. It can change and vary, and a lot of it's seasonal as well. So it's really difficult for us to put where they are on, because they literally are up and down with the priorities, if that helps.
Yeah, thank you. Again, I'd probably echo it is a difficult question to answer, to measure success around these things, because effectively what you're trying to measure in a way is prevention and the success of those preventative measures that we put in. And I think the other thing that we're quite careful not to do within our world of neighbourhood policing and community policing is to work within silos of, well, this is VORG, or the fear of violence against women and girls, this is the fear of ASB, this is the fear of knife crime, etc., when on, particularly on the darker nights when classically there is that increased perception, that increased fear of crime and violence because of the dark nights, or because of poorly lit areas, etc., etc. Measuring what a VORG initiative versus what an ASB initiative might do. Just for a quick bit of reassurance, though, there are some, I think, again, difficult to measure initiatives, but actually probably have a myriad of outcomes when you do the high visibility policing. So, for example, Operation Resolve was mentioned around that hotspot policing and that high visibility policing. That in itself is a deterrent, and it's been proven to really reduce not only those instances, and I'm straying into ASB, but those instances of ASB, and where that perception and that fear of people being nervous, walking out in darker evenings, etc. Where that fear is taken away, that is because, what am I trying to say? That is because often of the higher visibility police presence, which is obviously something that we always want more of, but there's various, I suppose, approaches that we can take. The education in schools, in the mornings during the daytime, getting people to think, getting young people to think about where they're going to be hanging out and when, and that perception that the public might have of that, but also giving them their freedom to congregate where they want to. So what am I trying to say? I think it's just a difficult thing to measure in terms of that success, but also it's keeping the education piece going, and also it is really keeping a close ear to the ground around what we've been saying over the last few weeks and months around information, disinformation, how to get it out there, which is always a challenge, even in this online age, because not everybody looks at, say, Warwickshire Police's Facebook page or Twitter account, or is on Warwickshire Connected. So it doesn't give you an exact answer, around how we're measuring success and what's the most successful, what's the least successful. But, for example, I can tell you just anecdotally of what is very successful, and we have an initiative called Walk With Us, and that is a specifically targeted daytime walk, but for women and girls to join us on walk-arounds. Just kills two birds in a way, because it's there's a nice walk around the park where people are free to meet the police in an informal setting, ask questions, be reassured, and to just have that opportunity for a one-on-one chat that doesn't often come when we're all locked in the police station or out on patrol or dealing with incidents. And the whole point of that is to reduce violence against women and girls, to get the right information there and to reassure. So that is proving hugely successful, and I think the next one is in a couple of weeks' time. So we're really actively involved in that. That's just one example, but I appreciate it doesn't give you an exact facts and figures result around success, because that is a very difficult thing to measure.
Could I just to add on to that further, Councillor, I can't give you what has been the most and least impactful and successful with youth violence. However, I would like to highlight the virtual reality headsets that we do, which are led by Claire and the Community Safety Wardens, the Anti-Knife Crime Campaign. That has an absolutely fantastic rate for us to encourage and engage with our teenagers, and to see how they respond to that has been fantastic, and it does really it means that we can then engage with them and ask them questions about it and how they might think about carrying a knife versus the consequences that they've just learnt about. So the VR headsets are fantastic for us, and I think for the safety wardens as well.
Just very quickly off the back of that, I know we've been saying, how do we measure it? Well, it's difficult, we can't. His Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabularies and Fire and Rescue Services, who is our inspectorate who regularly inspects us around things. We had a bespoke serious and organised crime inspection 2 years ago, and I was actively involved in organising that inspection and so spoke to the inspectorate directly. They looked at those VR headsets, I think they actually had a go as well, and they were particularly impressed, and they're holding that up as a bit of a beacon of innovative practice and the real impact that has, because people do sit through those scenarios on the headset. It's totally immersive, and it really, really brings it home.
Can I say thank you for your response to that question? It was there to say, put that word measurable, knowing that it was very hard to measure. My follow-up question would have been, if necessary, what were you proud of? But I think you've answered that, so thank you for the response to that. If I go to my second question, if I can, if now going to domestic abuse. Not something I know much about, but as I understand it, it tends to be something which is a bit of a cycle, and we need to break that cycle. So there's both of the repeat offender, and there are also the person who keeps getting re-victimised. Can you tell me what you're doing to try and break that cycle?
So from a police point of view, first of all, the operational name absolutely escapes me, but there are interventions from an offender's point of view in custody, where naturally on a sliding scale of risk and of proportionality and appropriateness for it, we don't give somebody this opportunity necessarily who's a regular high-risk offender, because by that point, you know, that opportunity is long gone. But we do have those interventions where they're on the lower scale. There are those opportunities for out-of-court resolutions where there is a real programme. I've completely forgotten the name. Red Snapper. Which is an initiative that's been going for a good 18 months to 2 years, I believe, and that is actively looking at the point of engagement with that suspect in custody. So the domestic abuse perpetrator programme, so it's where there are lower level DA incidents. So it actually includes DA suspects from the age of 14 years old, because as we know, it's not always the classic, male on female adult. There are, young people who might perpetrate that against parents or carers. So that it's a multifaceted programme that allows that intervention and that real thinking process, where we've got that early opportunity to change the mindset, if you like. So that's a particularly important piece of work. We've also got, as you know, probably the multi-agency safeguarding hub, all convened under one roof at Saltersford in Warwick. And that is a really vital piece of work, because what you have is all of the referrals, and every domestic incident will have a referral. Just to explain that quickly, we'll turn up at an incident, might be involved violence, it might not, but we will then take all the details of all the parties there. That will include children who haven't necessarily been victims of it themselves, but because they've witnessed it, they will be treated as such. Those referrals are recorded in detail, they're risk assessed very carefully, they're secondarily risk assessed, and then there's a tertiary risk assessment within that hub. That means that by 9 o'clock the next morning, all those individuals involved in that, so from a suspect point of view, there's really prompt action, usually overnight by an operational team. There will be the victim care that is, particularly if it's a high risk, can be provided by our domestic abuse team. And then there's the, I suppose from a children's aspect, we are able to, with Op Encompass, we're able to speak to the school, and that is a programme that stops people falling through the net of, we can intervene, we can wrap around that support, and we speak to the school, and it means that we are identifying adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, and it therefore means that there's that multifaceted suspect victim and children involved or witnesses, so that there is that I suppose multifaceted wraparound. I'm trying to think what else that we have that would be of use. Yeah, please do, sir.
Yeah, I've been in this job now for 9 years, and the one thing that shocked me and still does, is the amount of domestic abuse that goes on. So most of it, by definition, takes place within the home environment. Not always, but most of it. So really the response from the police and the number of organisations that we fund who are there to support victims is about giving victims the confidence to report that domestic abuse. And if they want to know whether there are children involved and all the rest of it. So there is some sort of background as to what is occurring. I mean, the good news is I think that more victims of domestic abuse are reporting it. I think that's lifted it up what I call the sort of political agenda, and everybody in the whole of the Warwickshire Police organisation, which is about 2,000 people now, are part of the response to domestic abuse. One final thing is our office, we have a major commission service with an organisation called Safeline, based in Warwick, but they certainly cover the whole county and the Rugby area. And we also co-commission with the County Council the Refuge Service. That's been improved recently, which is really good news. In the past, Refuge would take vulnerable women either at risk or indeed victims of domestic abuse, and they would be put into sort of safe accommodation. But they've just brought in now that they will take children of it's not always women, but it's mainly women. They will take the children out of that environment. So in the past, children were left living with the perpetrator of domestic abuse, which was outrageous. So I think the response to it and the level of understanding is improving, but it's a society problem. I'm afraid that the police have to pick up a lot of the pieces.
Chair, a question of clarification there. It's not usually that they leave the children with the perpetrator. Usually the mother and children are taken, in my experience of dealing with families of domestic abuse, the children go with the mother and they're taken to a safe place. So I'm just checking a question of clarification there, please.
The good news is that is the case now, but it wasn't always that.
Maybe many years ago.
Yeah. Well, in Warwickshire, anyway, I'm talking in Warwickshire, it wasn't the case some years ago, but it is now, and it's the right thing to do, isn't it?
Thank you. Just something to build on what the PCC's just covered there, and I think I thought you might have mentioned it and I was going to steal your thunder with regards to the Victims Code, but a really good, really I think what I want to talk about here is with regard to partnership working, and again that visibility of DA within that space at the moment. Only a week or so ago, the OPCC put together a very large event where it brought together a lot of different practitioners and partnership organisations from across the space, and we were focusing on the Code of Practice for Victims of Crime, which, if you're unfamiliar with it, is around some rights that a victim has and trying to make sure that victims are aware of those rights and access to help and support throughout a process. In addition to that, I think it's just key that we give an idea of how things sit within the larger Warwickshire community safety space, really. So there is now it's called DASUP, but it was the VORG board, so the Violence Against Women and Girls. And this is where sort of, as the area commander was saying earlier, it's difficult to parcel out different parts. A lot of these do certainly intertwine. So of course, DA is relevant in that world, but it also includes sort of other offences that might happen. There is also a DA steering group, and there is a Warwickshire County Council Domestic Abuse Commissioner who sits on that and leads that. All of the groups that sit underneath the Safer Warwickshire Partnership Board have recently, as a new change that's been brought in, been asked to have increased governance and sort of scrutiny from the Partnership Board down into these separate subgroups, where they now have to, on a semi-regular basis, provide key updates to the wider board. So I think it's good that there's a bit more oversight of what's happening within those groups. They do tend to be action-led, but there is always a risk that things sort of become talking shops. So I think it's particularly useful in ensuring that those remain task-based. And as part of that, and I'll pass over to Claire to discuss this one, we have set up a local group that focuses more on that. Did you want to say something on that?
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, it come through that I decided, well, as a community safety, that we needed to look at domestic abuse a lot more and in depth. So we decided to set up a task and finished group. It is in the very infancy of the group, but I'm making sure that we've got housing involved, housing allocations, everybody, every agency, like was mentioned, New Refuge, Safeline, everybody to come together, and what we can actually put into rugby that is going to make a difference. Because I say we work with county, that's on the overarching, but what actually can we do locally for rugby? And that's where we're looking at all the different things in this group. As I say, it's very early in its infancy. I'm just trying to get the best people to be in this group and what we can do, because I think it's really important that we actually look what is important to rugby, but work with all the different agencies to get the right people, the right information. Again, I totally agree that we need to help these people by giving them the right information, because that wrong information can be catastrophic, really. So I just wanted to give an update really on that we are looking at this in more detail, but trying to do it the best way that we can and the best practice.
Chair, can I ask? Sorry, I don't want to dominate. Sorry, Chair. I don't like to dominate. Sorry. Yeah, could councillors be involved in that? Because I would really like to be involved in that work, if possible, please.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That would, really help. But as I say, the more people that we can have the thoughts from, ideas, especially working in different areas, and your expertise from that side, the more that we can put in, the better that this is going to be for us all.
Sorry, Chair, one more question. Can I just ask Police and Crime Commissioner, you mentioned about Operation Encompass. Can you explain the timeline of that? Because quite often the alerts we get through the schools are delayed and we're not there in time to support those children when they come in on the Monday morning. We don't always know what's gone on the Saturday night. So it's just the timelines and getting that information out as fast as possible so that we can support the children, please.
Sorry, which operation was that?
Operation Encompass alerts that we get when there's been a domestic violence.
Okay.
When there's been a domestic
I don't
violence.
know. I'm going to ask one of my colleagues to answer that one.
So if an incident has taken place over the weekend, the risk assessments that are completed are done by the officers that shift. That data then has to go to the MASH, so to Saltisford, where it is then shared out, unless it is a sort of life and death situation. There is always going to be a delay of a number of days to get it through. So unfortunately, MASH don't work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, like the emergency services side of it. There is going to be a delay to get it to our partner agencies, health, education, things like that. And I think that is, unless we open up safeguarding teams 24/7, that's how it's going to be.
Sorry, Chair, that's what we need to do, because the delays in getting that information out are crucial to people to be able to support those children when they've had an adverse childhood experience. I've worked with a lot of children that have had these experiences, and getting in quickly, the schools are their comfort place, their place where they're safe. They know that they're protected by adults, and we really need to be there hitting the ground running when those children come in on a Monday morning and they've experienced something horrific. Seeing two key adults in their life hurting each other is not an experience any child should ever have to witness, and we need to be there ready to pick them up and give them, basically make sure that they've got support, because they turn to us when in those times when they feel that everything else is falling out around them.
We do now have something called Voice of the Child, which is being trained to every police officer and every sort of police member of staff And part of that is in a domestic situation, officers will speak to the children alone and away from any other adults within that. So one, we check on their physical well-being to make sure they haven't been assaulted and things like that. We also talk to them about what has happened, because we understand that adult victims and adult perpetrators don't always tell us the full circumstances. And I very much agree with you that it is very traumatic for children to see their loved ones involved in any kind of violence, and the officers will speak with the children to give them that time. So I have done it as an officer, and I have spent more time with the child than I have done with the adult victim and the adult perpetrator, because I felt with my professional judgment that child at that time was the most important thing. So we are changing how we approach children involved in domestic relationships, definitely, and I think it is for the better of the child as well.
Just very quickly, Chair, sorry. I was just going to tag on to the end of that, because obviously that's a concern if the ACEs are not being, I suppose, acted on from within a school environment as promptly as, you know, as you're experiencing. I'm more than happy offline to get examples of that and sort of how much that is happening, so that I can speak directly to the Detective Chief Inspector in terms of in charge of safeguarding, and the Detective Superintendent, so that if there is a delay, I know that it's something that's been very closely looked at within the MASH, because there are challenges at times with, you know, really prompt triage, and I know a lot of work's been done around that in recent months and years to really basically make it completely streamlined, so that Monday morning, as soon as there is that, I feel like that backlog to work through from the weekend. Now, obviously, as Sergeant Mountford says, anything high risk acted on immediately, but anything that is deemed slightly lower risk, but it's not to minimise or you know, trivialise the effect that it's had on the children, for example, that is worked through very, very quickly with the partner agencies all around the table under the same roof in the same office, and the design of that system is that that gets out to school very, very quickly. So if there are bottlenecks there, I'm happy to take those details offline and raise that with the DSUPT and the DCI, so that if there's anything that needs just tweaking, it can do.
Sorry, Chair, just one supplementary question, if that's okay. It would be useful if designated safeguarding leads in school could be alerted. Use whatever you can, use AI, you know, whatever you can get through to people. So, because you do have off-duty, out-of-hours off-duty designated safeguarding leads who will pick up those calls.
Yes.
I'm one of them. So
okay.
I would want to know if a child in my school had experienced domestic violence, I would want to know Monday morning to be able to pick them up.
Absolutely.
So if you could get that information out, get the contact details for the DSLs, that would be really useful, and send that information. It's vital we hit them first thing. I appreciate you do your bit talking to the children, but you're an adult possibly in uniform.
Yeah.
It can be quite difficult for a child to speak to somebody they don't know.
Yeah.
The nurture comes from the school, and we want to be there to support them straight away, because, you know, they open up to us, they know us, they see us every day, we're there for them, and it would be useful to be there Monday morning. Come on in, let's get you some breakfast, let's sort this out. So if you could do that, would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, we've made a note now, and I'll get in touch with you outside of the meeting. Well,
Sorry, did I put...
Thank you for the responses. I think that was a very complete set of responses. It actually has increased my awareness of what you're doing, and I'm sure that anybody who's watching this, it would have increased theirs. What came through there was a level of engagement and a level of responsiveness coming through, which I think is what we should want to see in this chamber. So thank you for that. I'll get to my third question if I can. It's probably a bit more sharp, this one now, because I don't want to be... So, right, let's put the third one out, which is more going to be about business crime. So if you owned a shop in Rugby, would you feel safer now than you would have done 2 years ago?
Sorry, would I have felt safer now
Than
2 years
than
ago?
you would have done 2 years ago?
Having been here 4 months, it's difficult for me to know the exact details of that, but I'm not going to use that as a get-out, I assure you. Business crime overall, I believe, from a community safety partnership data point of view across the board, is down 15% from this time last year. One statistic doesn't make people feel safer. I understand that. It's a combination of things. High visibility of policing is a significant one. Effective CCTV is another one. Well publicised crackdowns, if you like, on organised or serial offenders, and there is a link from organised crime to mass business crime, there's no doubt about it, and we are aware of that. So would I feel safer? If I gave you a few aspects of what we're doing around it, so that if a business crime owner was, or a business owner was listening right now, hopefully they would feel more assured if they didn't 5 minutes ago. I can try that avenue if you like. If I give you a recent example of a phenomenal piece of work where, unfortunately, a serious offence did happen, but the partnership working that I'm seeing the fruit of, having not been involved in it a few years ago, because I've only been here 4 months, it seriously impressed me around how well partnerships such as this are tackling business crime. So about 3 months ago, one Tuesday afternoon, and the case is still live, so I'll be careful what detail I give, but there was an organised robbery at a retail premises in Rugby town centre. Within a minute and a half, less than that, a significant number of officers were on scene. Three were arrested. All the property was recovered, and the getaway vehicle was seized. Now, that was as a result of CCTV being eyes and ears, public being eyes and ears, and the reason they are being eyes and ears is because we're engaging with them in the town centres on a daily basis. This was a local business owner who alerted us, so that relationship meant that they felt empowered to contact us straight away, knowing that they would get a response. It was officers taking business crime seriously and knowing the effect that it has on our town centres, our business owners, our public, who are just going about their daily business in a town centre. So that case is ongoing, so I can't go into too much detail, but that is a significant piece of teamwork. We've got the wardens, again, eyes and ears, and that, if we worked in a disjointed way where nobody trusted each other, I'm not sure that response would have happened so quickly. It wasn't just a case of 999 being rung. It was a case of the Safer Neighbourhoods team being aware of the issues and literally getting out of the station. That they just happened to be in the station at that point, otherwise they might have been out on patrol, but they were able to respond very quickly. And other departments who weren't necessarily town centre based, again, threw their kit on, if they didn't have it on, and jumped out, and there was that really strong guy was involved.
Yes, so I was in a meeting actually at the Ben Partnership. So I broke from that meeting very quickly, and I ended up arresting one of the suspects for it. So we know that this was an organised crime group because of their history. It was the first time in Rugby that they'd tried. We think it was their first time in Warwickshire that they had tried. But they were young adult males who had a long history where it looked like other forces had perhaps failed to get the convictions that they needed, and we weren't going to have that in Rugby on us. So the message was very clear: don't try it in our town. Just to follow up on the business crime aspect in the town centre, we would love to do more, and we are trying to do more, and we would definitely encourage our town centre businesses to engage with the police. If I say to you, we have increased our town centre team, so we now have a PCSO, a Police Community Support Officer, who is dedicated to Operation Resolve, so focuses their time entirely on the town centre. We have made the decision as a local command team that we will also put a secondary PCSO into the town centre. So we've added to that. And then we've also decided to put a secondary police constable in the town centre because we want to focus on the town centre. So we have 2 full-time PCs and 2 full-time PCSOs now working the town centre, compared to 2 years ago when I think we had 1 and 1. So we've increased the team, and we have said we want our focus to be the town centre, out engaging with businesses as well as members of the public. We have also looked at working more closely with departments of Rugby Borough Council, so the economic development team that I believe has recently been set up. They have a focus on the town centre, so we want to work with them to improve areas that could be improved on, so perhaps businesses where they might not be legally trading as some of our better businesses. We want to focus on that, so we can perhaps prosecute and close them down, but also that encourages our law-abiding businesses that we are there to help protect them by also helping to boost their trade, hopefully. So we're really focusing on the town centre now, definitely.
Can I come in and try and answer your original question? I'm not a business owner in Rugby, plainly. I think they probably are a bit safer than they were 2 years ago. Not only the police has sort of bolstered up the visibility and presence within the town centre, but we have been working on an organisation called the Warwickshire Retail Crime Initiative, which we're encouraging all medium, small, large businesses to join, whereby there's radio contact, there are WhatsApp groups and all sorts of things where they can help to keep themselves safe. There's 2 types of retail crime. There is the small-scale acquisitive crime, which is probably, the offender is probably feeding some sort of habit. And then, as they've said, there is the organised crime groups who are, they do it to make money, and they are serious, and they are, by the sound of it, have targeted Rugby, or one particular group anyway, for the first time. But we work very closely with an organisation called the Regional Organised Crime Unit, which covers the whole of the West Midlands. We contribute towards it as Warwickshire, and they have done a number of operations in Warwickshire to try and take out some of these criminal organised gangs.
Just one comment. Thank you for coming to this scrutiny. I think, Heather, it'll be over to you for that final.
Thank you, Councillor Lawrence. Okay, Councillor Edwards.
Oh, thank you very much. I just wanted to say thank you very much for the invitation for us to be here. I know I haven't said anything, but as a portfolio holder for the last 12 months, I am really proud of the team and the work they do. It's about working in partnership, and long may it continue. Thank you.
Totally agree. Our communities are affected right across the board, and it's what we do both as a council, the health, the education system and our police. So it matters very much that we all work together. And I want to say thank you very much for coming and answering our questions, but also giving us information about the underneath areas of domestic abuse, etc., which helps us perhaps to highlight to our communities how they can go about approaching you and coming to you when they've got issues. And I think that's part of our role as well as councillors that we need to carry on doing. Okay, so I want to say thank you very much. I really do appreciate your attendance. I appreciate all, you're all very busy people and there's a lot to do. And these reports, we've got one final thing to do, councillors. We have to note the reports. Was that with the word you used? So can I have your agreement that we note the reports, please? Thank you. And thank you all very much. Thank you for your presentations and for your comments on the report. And keep up the good work. I'm sure the residents of Rugby are going to appreciate it in the future. So thank you. Thank you very much. You're welcome to leave us. It's all right. I'm not going to make you hang on and hear about the local plan or the budget. Okay. Great. Okay, councillors, if we move on to the next item on our agenda, which is production of the new local plan, which I believe, Neil, you are going to present to us the report.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Neil Holly. I'm the Development Strategy Manager for the Council. As you probably all know, the Council is producing a new local plan. We have done 2 public consultations as part of that process, both under what's called Regulation 18 of the Local Plan Regulations, the most recent of which concluded in May. The request from the Scrutiny Committee was for an update on the activities of the Council's planning team in preparing the local plan ahead of the next stage of the plan making process, which will be the Regulation 19 consultation. That's the pre-submission consultation on the local plan, which under the local development scheme is scheduled to take place in January 2026. So the report, which hopefully is fairly self-explanatory, updates you on the main tasks that we're undertaking in the run-up to that consultation. They break really down into 2 categories. One is reviewing and analysing the very many responses that we received to the consultation that closed in May, and the second is on preparing updated evidence to inform the next stage of the local plan, and the report details the various evidence studies that are ongoing and will inform the next stage of plan making. The final thing to point out about the report is that it updates the risk register that was reported to Cabinet and Council in March of this year. The reason for updating the risk register is that the risks in the process are really dynamic, and some things have changed since this was last reported. So we're using this Scrutiny Committee report as an opportunity to update that. Really, that's all I wanted to say by way of introduction, and both Nicola and I are happy to answer any questions that councillors may have.
There is quite a lot that seems to be happening the end of September and October. One particular interest for me was around the grey belt assessment, and I did understand previously that that was due to be published the end of August. Obviously that slipped. What do you think the capacity in here is going to be for some of this to slip? Sorry.
So it is an ambitious timetable, but I think, as I set out at the last Scrutiny committee, there's a reason for that timetable being ambitious, and also the because of what's the changes that are coming down the road. But whilst it's ambitious, that doesn't mean that it's not achievable. And the report sets out the anticipated completion date for all of these pieces of evidence, and what myself, Neil and the team will be doing is there is a programme between now and the end of the year, how we bring everything together. So I can't sit here and give absolutely cast iron categorical assurances, but as far as I'm concerned, sat here in front of you, it is still on time and on track, and we will get these evidence bases in time for the Reg 19 consultation as scheduled in the local development scheme.
Can I just ask an additional question? Because obviously that is coming around quite quickly into January. One of the key issues that I felt with the last consultation, and I think a number of councillors felt, was that we didn't feel particularly informed about the options and about what we were being asked to vote about. I mean, it was particularly on consultation, but also we felt rather kept in the dark. And I wouldn't like to see that happen as we move forward into January and that reoccur, because I feel that wouldn't be helpful to your progress and to the progress of the local plan. So please, could I make a plea that we are informed as soon as possible. All councillors are informed. I don't mean just me. I do mean all councillors are informed as soon as possible about the likely structure of what we are being asked to vote upon, and that we understand the options and why we're being asked to vote about them.
I think that's a very good point, and I think we've and in discussions with our portfolio holder have reflected on those comments regarding the preferred options consultation. What we are proposing to do in the lead up to the proposed January committee, because we are very conscious that there will be a lot of information that members will need to consider, they will need to understand the options, and they will need to understand the evidence base. And it's absolutely essential that members going into those meetings in January feel that they have an informed view to be able to make on the information that is presented in front of them. Now, previously, we had a cross-party members planning services working group where a lot of the information and evidence base could be presented and the options discussed. At present, not all political groups are attending those working groups, but we feel it is really important that all groups are informed. So the first our first solution to that issue is to engage with the Conservative group once all of the evidence has been returned to us, and once we've got a view on the different options that all councillors have got to consider, that we hold a meeting with a small group from the Conservative group to discuss that, to show all of the evidence and to discuss the options. And then it's a discussion for all three group leaders how best to inform every council, or all 42 councillors, in the run-up to that Cabinet and Council in January, because I think it's the group leaders that can give the best insight in terms of how we do that final consultation or final information session, shall we say, for all members. But the smaller group session is likely to be sort of mid-November, and we're in the process of arranging that with the Conservative leader, so that the Conservative group are consulted, informed, and have sight of that evidence as we go through that process.
Okay, so you're doing a lot of public engagement at the moment. What I would like to understand, and you may not be able to show that yet, is what the impact is that having on what you're going to be proposing. I'd like to see evidence that the engagement has had an impact, not that it has been left to one side. We want to see that evidence of that coming through.
So I can say that we're reading every response that has been submitted to us, and there are something like 5,000 responses. I personally have read every response from an organisation, from a neighbouring authority, from a councillor, from a parish council, from a site promoter. I haven't read all of the responses from individuals. I've read some of them. All of those are being summarised, and we're highlighting issues that are raised in numerous different responses, because not everyone is raising a unique comment. A lot of times people raise the same things that other people have also said, and we're recording how many people raised those issues, who raised those issues, and then we will be responding individually to those main issues, and this will be in a report that will be on the consultation. That will be one of the documents that will be presented to Cabinet and Council at the start of next year, to show that we are seriously taking on board those issues that people are raising, and setting out our response to them. We're obviously not in a position to agree with everything that everyone says, because often they're totally contradictory and you tie yourself in knots. But I can assure that we are carefully considering and reading those responses, and we will be responding in detail. And in some cases, for example, where they are raising issues with evidence that's been presented to date or with particular sites, we've gone back and commissioned additional technical evidence to look at those issues. And we are maintaining, in addition to the log of comments, a log of changes that have been asked for, both to the local plan, the policies map, and to the evidence-based documents. So hopefully that sort of provides you with some assurance that we are devoting a lot of kind of man hours to this, to getting to grips with everything that was put into the consultation responses, because we know that a lot of people have spent a lot of time reviewing the material and providing comments, and we want to ensure that those comments help us to produce the best version of the plan we can at the next stage.
I think that understanding that journey and what's happened with that is very, very important. So I appreciate you're having to do a lot of analysis at the moment, but I think the return is going to be, and that communication of, we went and did this survey because you asked this question. Understanding that, which is not obvious necessarily, would be very helpful. You are going to have to make unpopular decisions. We do want to know why you've chosen to make those unpopular decisions. So I think there has to be that narrative comes through as well. We have chosen to do this. We know that you don't want this, and have to try and create a justification why you're doing it. And my final request is, how could you come back with a status telling me how much building is going to happen on Grey Belt? What before? On Grey Belt, what is the proportion of the build that's going to happen on Grey Belt rather than other land?
We certainly will have that statistic. I don't have it in now.
Understood.
Yeah.
But I would appreciate having that specifically.
Of course, yeah, no, absolutely.
What I would like to say is that I understand your discussions with group leaders, and I understand your discussions with the administrations, having led the last local plan. But one thing I do know is that there isn't ever any party whip when it comes to the local plan. And that applies to across the board, I believe. So I think it would be better if you ensure that every councillor, whether they're on scrutiny or whether they're in the administration or whether they're in the Conservative Party or whether they're in the Lib Dems, is aware of what the options could be before you get to that decision-making process in January. So I'd just like to be clear on that, because there definitely was no party whip applied in the last local plan voting, and I'm certain it won't apply in this one.
Just to clarify what I meant by what I said previously, it wasn't, we're going to discuss it with the group leaders because they're going to tell us what their party thinks. It was to discuss with group leaders the format for that consultation with their individual groups, whether that's in here with all 42 councillors at once, whether it's individual presentations to groups. So that's the discussion with group leaders that I want to have, not, as you quite rightly say, that the group leaders will tell me what they individually think and what their party's going to do, because that would not be appropriate. So it's the format and structure of how we inform the 42 councillors.
I would like to make the plea that we know well in advance and that we fully understand the options and implications of the local plan, the grey belt, as soon as possible. I do notice that a lot of the dates in here are about when the work is completed. It doesn't say when it's going to be published. And I'm assuming that as soon as it is published, we will be part of that discussion going forward. So I do note those dates do mean when the work is finished rather than when we get to know about it. And so I'm being very clear. We do need to know the full picture of what the options are as soon as possible as councillors. Just to be clear. Sorry.
And to be clear in response,
oh my God.
I know. Yeah. To be clear in response, members will be informed of the options before any information is made public.
I think you touched a very important point. In terms of consultation, public has to understand what is positive, what is negative. And I think it's very important. Some of the documents are very large, and we want a summary form where public can understand what they're saying, otherwise very difficult.
It's a fair point. The reality is that in preparing these documents, there is a kind of dual audience. One of our audiences is the public of Rugby Borough, but another of the audiences is ultimately the planning inspectors, probably planning inspectors who would examine the plan, and all of the various interested parties who are likely to want to participate in the local plan examination, because that's the reason why so much evidence is prepared. And unfortunately, that's just a feature of the planning system, and inescapably we're going to have lots and lots of quite dense documents in common with every other council. But it is a fair point that we need to try and make the big messages of that as accessible as possible to residents, and we've tried to do that at the various stages of plan making so far. I think probably one of the more successful ways in which we've done that is through videos at the last two stages of plan making that were quite short videos to enable people to quickly get a grasp of some of the key issues. We certainly at the issues and options stage, we did which was the first consultation, we did a kind of executive summary document. We could certainly look at doing the same thing again and making our website material as kind of accessible as possible. And those of you who attended consultation events that we did during the last consultation stage will know that Nicola and I delivered a lot of different, I can't recall exactly how many, Councillor Mystery will have the misfortune of listening to most of them, where we did our best to try and break out some of the key messages and help people to understand A, what the process is, and B, what the options are and what some of the pros and cons of those options are. And I'm sure we'll do the same thing again at the next stage of consultation. So it's a good point. It's a common complaint across the planning process, I think, is how we make it accessible to people. And certainly in the run up to the next consultation, it's something that we'll discuss with members, and we're very much open to people's ideas about how we can make it more accessible and more accessible to a wider audience as well. The only thing I would say about the next stage of consultation is it's a consultation that is to a large extent for the benefit of the planning inspectorate, so they have a response form that people have to complete that is determined by the planning inspectorate, and we have to collate all of those and send them to the planning inspector. So in the exact form that the consultation takes is kind of prescribed by the planning inspectorate process. But in terms of how we can get the message out and inform people, that's really up to us.
Can I ask, involving young people, what is our communication strategy on that?
This is a good question, and one that is, I think, is something that we haven't necessarily excelled at. I was at the end of last term. I attended Dunchurch Primary School, and I did effectively we did two lessons for the children, two different, I think it was year 2 or year 3. No, that's not right. I think it was year 5, where we presented to them, we explained to them basically about the local plan process, and there were activities that we did so that they could understand how some of the decisions were made and some of the factors and considerations. I've done a similar thing at Bilton High, but I think the honest answer is that we, in common with other local planning authorities, are not expert at engaging with a younger audience, and that audience is hard to engage that audience in the process that's taking place. In previous roles, I know that there is a Warwickshire Youth Council, I think, and I've tried to engage with them. That's certainly something I can look to do again, and it's trying to figure out ways in which we can involve young people in the process and engage them in it, because they're not going to come to us really. We'd need to go to them to get them interested in this.
Sorry, Chair, I disagree that it's hard to engage young people. They are so keen to get involved in anything like this, and I really do think if you prep it right and get information out to them, they are very keen to engage in these processes. We just need to give them the opportunities. So, I do think we need to look further at engaging schools and young people in these planning processes, please. I also have you finished, Ramesh? Can I just ask about the school place modelling information gathering? Apparently the report's due mid-late September. Understanding primary and secondary school capacities. Have you looked at the need for children with neurodiverse needs and the lack of provision for children with special educational needs in the borough? Because I understand our provision at the moment is at stretching point, breaking point. The Quest is oversubscribed. We're taking children from outside the borough. How do we make sure we've got enough capacity for not just our needs, but for also the other capacity coming in from outside the borough, which is happening at the moment? Children are being brought in from all other areas and filling up our special educational needs schools, and our schools that like the Quest. So we do need to look at what provision we're providing for our young people who have got neurodiverse needs, please.
So commissioning education modelling, school place modelling, is an unusual step for a district council to take in producing a local plan, because it's a county council responsibility as the local education authority. Warwickshire County Council LEA are working with us and have provided us with data to run the modelling, and they'll be reviewing the outcomes of the modelling with us. The modelling is, I say it uses school census information. It's a modelling for mainstream schooling. So the simple answer is it doesn't cover SEN. I can't talk to what the local education authority and our colleagues at Warwickshire County Council are doing in terms of modelling, SEN modelling, but that's not something that we are doing. I don't think it's something that would be reasonably within the scope of local plan making. We're not trying to act as a shadow local planning, local education authority. We are trying to just get the best information that we can to inform things that are within our the remit, which is the local plan and planning for the development of the borough.
So just to clarify, the local education authority is a key stakeholder and consultee for the plan. So it is for them to tell us what the need is, and based on the growth in terms of the requirements and the housing needs, it's for the local education authority to tell us that. So that's why they are consulted as part of the previous consultation and on the Reg 19. What we have done, which is what Neil was referring to, which is quite unique, is commission further evidence into primary and secondary school numbers and what parts of the borough have got particular needs, but that is mainstream schooling. But that doesn't mean that the normal consultation responses from the county are then disregarded, because in relation to SEND, it's for them to tell us what the need is and then how we actually plan for that and how development comes forward.
Chair, can I ask a supplementary? I understand that, remember that there was going to be a sixth form entry in Corston. Is that still on the agenda or not?
So do you mean not a sixth form entry school? Do you mean a So do you mean a sixth form at the school, or do you mean a new sixth form entry? So there is plans for a sixth form entry on the South West Rugby allocation. That's already in the current local plan. So that effectively is carried forward into the next local plan, and that is then put into this modelling that we're doing, along with what we know now is the trajectory for South West Rugby, or the likely trajectory, because times changed, and it's not being built out as quickly as was envisaged sort of 6 to 8 years ago. But all of that is factored into the modelling.
Can you just give us an idea of the timescales of that likely to happen, to the new school to be built? Do you have an idea when that could possibly happen?
As I understand it, there is no fixed date for that yet. The planning application, the outline planning application from Homes England, which incorporates the housing and the school site, has just been submitted. I think there's more work for the local education authority to do to determine what they want the trigger to be in terms of timing for that school to be opened. And I can't really speak on their behalf. That's ultimately their decision.
Thank you both very much for coming out and updating us. I'm sure we'll be asking you again. Thank you very much. And yeah, happy for you to leave.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, as time is moving on, we come to General Fund Housing Revenue Account, Budget Monitoring and Performance Monitoring, Q1. John, Councillor Ministry, who wants to go? Oh.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for inviting us to Scrutiny today. Just to give you a quick update on the reports you've got on the agenda tonight. As you may recall, in previous years, the finance and performance monitoring report was a single document that included the HRA, the general fund, and performance all in one document. We felt a positive enhancement to the reporting process for 25-26 would be to split the three, split it into the three component parts. What we can then do is give each element the airtime that it needs. We can also focus on particular areas. So the issues in the general fund are potentially different to the ones in the HRA. So we've tried this new style of reporting. What we've also got in the report, which is different to this year, and it will enhance as we go through the year, is a key focus area. So you can, just for context, in the general fund report this time round, we've got a focus on staffing and agency costs. Again, this will evolve throughout the year, and if there's a particular high profile, high risk area, we'll draw that out into future reports. In terms of the monitoring, we are month 3 into the financial year, so there's not that much data available to us in terms of reporting, but that is the position we've got at the moment. Another thing that we've done as an enhancement, as per the conversations I had last time, is whatever reports come through to the budget working group and to portfolio holders on in-year exceptions report, we're sending that through to you as well. So you can see that we are, the formal reporting is detailed and comprehensive. That comes to Cabinet, but in the months in between that, we do something a bit more targeted. So yeah, we've got a new style of reporting for 25-26, and hopefully it will evolve and improve throughout the year, and we'll get to a position where we've got some really good management information for everyone to discuss, and we can make decisions on.
I've got to ask you one scrutiny question at least. Okay then, so you are measuring KPIs. Tell me what is off track and what are you doing to actually try and bring that back on track again?
Sorry, shall I start? Could you hear what I was saying then? Sorry, and then another enhancement for 25-26 is every red rated KPI, the owner has been asked to fill out a summary, a set of questions. There's 7 questions, a template that says what is the KPI, what is the reason for the non-performance, and what are you going to do in order to bring that target back into line for the next reporting period. So all that information's gone out to owners this month, and we're expecting to get detailed responses for all those red rated KPIs by the 30th of September, which we can then bring into the report, which will come in November/December, depending on timing, for a Q2 detailed analysis. So in terms of I know from a finance and performance point of view, the red rated targets for me relate to bid levy collection, and again that's around collection of the income on the bid's behalf. We've put processes in place in order to increase our collection rates, and we'll start to see that to come through as well. But in terms of specific targets for specific services, if you've got particular points you want to raise, I can take it back, and maybe because there's another chief officer here, he might be able to answer some of those questions as well, not to throw the baton over.
I think it's more the process you're going through is why I'm asking questions at the moment. So KPIs are good. Response to KPIs that failing is even better. Okay, so for me, these are issues. Okay. Okay, so for me, KPIs which are red are issues. and I would expect them to be handled as issues and had the right level of governance to close them immediately, not in a month's time, 2 months' time, but immediately, or an action to be taken to do that. So I think that's a level of reporting that we're looking for, so that if an issue's closed, that's great, but tell us you've had an issue, you've closed it, as well as these are the issues that are live. I think that's the type of monitoring we're looking for, because I think in past it was a little bit risk orientated. We'll just say we'll put it in the risk register, not actually have some active work going on.
Thank you, Chair. It's as much as a portfolio holder, I would like to know the KPIs that's overrunning. And I think we just alluded earlier that we got exception report as well that coming in and dealing with, before it gets to the red, that we are trying to address those issues. And some of them, the 8 that came up, was John, quite rightly, the chief officer, levy collection, plant food inspection, we know about it, and we got, the chief officer on top of that one. The other one is, tipping, fly tipping and little thing that goes on. And the one we know, it's a compounding of all the issue, which we can't control. Some we won't be able to address, like the footfall in the town centre. We put a target of 500,000. You just got to look at it, the last 10 years where we have been, and it's not nowhere near. It's 3 million, something like that. So in a way, and some of the thing is back to the planning again. The land, supply of 5 years land for new homes. So that's part of the local plan we need to address. So when in long term, there are other embedded issues with the long-term sickness and whatever. And there is a plan with the HR and chief officer to deal with it. So it's not just for highlighting the red color looks nice, is to stamp it out as quickly as possible. And chief officer quite rightly said that this splitting of the report, which, I could never understand why it was put together 3. Now we are very clear, in terms of what general fund report is, and also linked to that is a performance indicator, call it KPIs, that matters, and the HR is a top of it, something that we have to do it, and it's not our money on the HRA, it belongs to the residents, and who pays the rent, and we need to deal with that. So and chief officer, no, I'm on this thing day in, day out, and I know the figures, and we know where we need to be. Yeah, but it takes time, and it's been embedded in for a long, long period over a time. And I've just seen it, and we have invested to address some of it by over £3 million. And I don't want to see another overrun or whatever and say, hey, what have we done here? So I think the chief officers are aware of it. The leadership team is aware of it, the cabinet members, and I'm glad that as a scrutiny, you're asking those questions as much as I am asking every day. The chief officer knows. Yeah, thank you.
And just as a point of clarification around Councillor Lawrence's question, the reason that really it's a timing situation as to why the templates for how you're going to deal with the red risks are going to be implemented. We only get the information for Q1 at the end of July. Then we had a holiday period, and the plan of bringing those templates forward was always in train. But yeah, now it's live, it's operational. We're going to get that information every month. So it's not that we've given people 3 months to provide a response. It's just that we've only recently launched it, and we've given people initial 4 weeks to get some good quality information, because it's the first time that we're doing it, and there might be a little bit of backwards and forwards in terms of quality control, but the expectation is every time those KPIs are completed in the future, as soon as that red is triggered, the expectation is that that form is completed, and then we can have again a good conversation about what the information's telling us.
One thing I did want to ask was to check on that, and just to see where it falls within the scrutiny thing, because obviously Q2 is now coming to an end. So our next meeting will have a more, how do I put this, a firmer picture of where it's going. Because I know you sent us, both Toby and I, the email and explained the differences and things. But obviously for the next meeting, we'll be on a much firmer basis of knowing which are coming into reds, which have gone, and which are the ones that you're particularly focusing on. Yeah?
Yeah, I agree. Traditionally, Q1 reporting has been, it's a little bit early in the year to really understand what any issues. As we get into September, 6 months through the year, there's a lot more clarity on what's going to happen. And actually, we've got 6 months of data. So when it comes to financial forecasting, we've got 6 months of data. We've also got 6 months or 5 months to put things right from a performance point of view. Not only can we compare it to the previous quarter, we've then got half year's information to compare to previous years as well. So what I'm going to be doing, what the team will be doing for Q2, is a lot more of a detailed report when it comes to performance, because there's just more information available to us. And one of the conversations to have internally is how transparent we be with those these summaries for the rated risks. It doesn't feel appropriate necessarily to put it into a cabinet report, but potentially as part of the scrutiny paperwork that we present to you in November, we can certainly share that with you if you think it would be useful.
That would be good, and obviously as you come towards budget reporting process as well, that's it's useful information to have to see where we're going against the previous year and where we're going against budget and all of that. Yep. Okay. Yeah. You'll come back.
I think I can't remember off the top of my head the date for scrutiny in November, but because the information for Q2 is available during October, we just need to make, if we do come to, if you do invite us to scrutiny and we come in November, what you might get is a draft position rather than the final report that we'll go through to, because from a committee timetabling point of view, we just need to make sure all the right dates align, otherwise we're going to get in a bit of a tangled mess. But yeah, the information's available, so we can. Oh, that should be fine then.
I'm 12 days into the job.
Good evening, Chair, and good evening, members. My name is John Murphy. I don't think I've actually met all of you, but I'm John Murphy. I'm the new Chief Officer, Law and Governance. I'm 12 days into the job. Thank you, Chair. And hopefully, next week's full council, I will be voted in as the monitoring officer. Currently, I'm not yet the statutory monitoring officer, so I have to be mindful about what I say. But yes, I should say I'm here to present the next item, which is the draft overview and scrutiny annual report, detailing all the activities you've undertaken in all the time I've not been here. So I read it with as much interest as you've read it, no doubt. And it seems that you've been up to a lot of activities, which is pleasing because as a new monitoring officer, to be, I want to know that the scrutiny activity here works, because that tells me that this is a council that has good governance. Scrutiny, you are here to kick the tyres of what the executive are doing, and we have portfolio holders here explaining what they're doing, so it shows me it's working, and long may that continue. So after this meeting, I'm hoping to catch up with the Chair of Scrutiny and with members and better understand how you pick the subject matters that you put on your work agenda moving forward. And that's something that I've been chatting to officers today to understand how it works from the other side of the divide. And at this point, I would like to thank the officers that are here, because I understand, like the Wizard of Oz, I've only been in the building 12 days, and this report didn't get written in the last 12 days by me. So I'd like to thank those people who have helped put this report together, who are less glamorous and have done the hard work. So for those officers behind the scenes, thank you very much. But otherwise, in the context of that pitch to you, Chair, if I can be of any assistance and field any questions, I'm here for the committee's assistance.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd just like to say thank you very much to Lynn, because she has put this report together, and it's well put together and well written. So thank you very much. And over to members. Any questions or queries, or are we happy to approve it to go to full council? Yep. I've just got to do the forward bit, but I'm sure you'll leave me to do that, because it will only be based on what's in the report anyway. Okay. All happy? Yep. Thank you very much. And thank you both. Well, thank you for your support in the future. And thank you very much for your support, Lynn. It's been exemplary. Sorry, this pressing buttons is really getting to me. We have the work programme, which is the bit, the final item on our agenda. It's not actually put on the agenda, but we do have the work programme, and it was put together as part of our pack. So we've got, we will have finance and performance and budget monitoring coming to the November meeting. There's one area, we will also be looking at the people strategy, because obviously that is a continuing issue with staff turnover, staff sickness, and agency staff, etc., that we need to be mindful of. We've also got to look at the customer journey task and finish group. We need to get the meetings into the agenda, into the programme, and get those started moving forward, because I think we've got membership, full membership now, haven't we, Lynn? So we just need to get the calendar put together to get those meetings, which can be online, can't they, for a task and finish group? Can they? Can they be teams?
In person is better, but...
Well, we'll have the first one in person, and then the people who are on there can make the decision whether they have it on Teams, because Teams does allow us to record and make it easier for you to do notes as well. So, and it also allows for officers to be present perhaps more readily, which may be useful for certain areas. So are you all in agreement? Sorry, I'm sailing ahead and just doing. Everybody okay with that? Yep. Right. So if we just move that one forward, we will want to see the local plan back here again. And obviously local government reorganisation is plodding along. So we will want to see that here as well. And the economic strategy action plan needs to be revisited. So is there anything else that members would like to see on the work programme?
Reiterate what you just said. I've got to check the facts out. So we're saying people's...
Sorry, I'm going to...
I repeat back, so making sure I've understood. So we're saying people strategy, customer journey,
budget setting,
and
all things money.
All things money, but emphasis on KPIs primarily, which is continuation from today. The local plan, we're expecting certainly something on Grain Belt coming through. So it's that particular thing, I think. Economic strategy and, the local government, whatever it will be at the point we get there, So that's 6.
Yeah, there's one further one, which was the review of the booking policies for the Ben Hall. You will know that we had the issues around bookings being cancelled earlier this year, and the publicity that evoked, I think as a scrutiny panel, we ought to understand how our policies have been used to perhaps for that situation to arise, what impact that's had on the council's reputation, and what is going to happen with regard to the policy in the future to ensure it's not repeated. Yeah? Are we all happy with that? Yeah.
I think while we're doing that, we should look at the balance as well in terms of impact in terms of the public, but also in terms of how it's going to affect all sections of society.
Obviously, yes, totally agree.
So from a diverse perspective.
Yes.
Can I add to that, Chair? I don't know how we do this, or whether it's whether it's something we can actually cover. I'll refer to Claire on this. That the recent publicity going on at the moment, we've got some of our communities are feeling extremely vulnerable, and our new and emerging communities they feel threatened, they feel worried. The things that are going on at London at the moment, I don't need to tell you about it. If I was in their place, I would be terrified to leave my house with the fear of what's going on and the agenda that's going on at the moment. And I just don't know whether there's anything we can put in the work programme that can look at how we support our new and emerging communities, because there's some very, very vulnerable people out there, and we've got to make sure we protect them against forces beyond our control.
I support that 100%.
Because
And she just said, I am so fearful for my children, especially after that incident where that young girl was
Inequality and Diversity Committee, we're discussing a lot about community cohesion and stability and a lot of different things. And I think it's really important that we also address this at some point, how we're going to do this. And also the experts that were here today, it would be really nice to have their insightful their contributions. I'm sure it'll be very insightful, and I think it would be nice because I think it's an area that's developing. We need to pay close attention to it, because we all want stability on the streets. So I think that's really...
And the misinformation.
And the misinformation, disinformation, all these new strands of that are developing. And if we can monitor it, in fact, if that can be part of our monitoring as well, then I think we can create a better society in Rugby, really, because we as a community don't want to be affected. Absolutely. Our streets don't want to be affected. safety and education.
My point will be, we are all talking about future of rugby. And I think young people are very important. So how we give importance to those young people, their feedback we should have here. What is the feedback from the young people? What we are talking about future of rugby?
Can I agree again? I think that's really part of that customer journey conversation. That should be inclusive for young people as well. So I think we can take that into that conversation. We're trying to narrow down the number of subjects and make them as good as possible, but hit all the points.
Roughly six things, that's probably as much as a committee can probably do and do well. And that's what I want to. So if we can.
Sorry, Chair, can I just add about the recent protests in London and a young person from our town speaking out there? I am very concerned about the impact of this, and there has been threats, as you're probably aware, at the school after that, following that incident. So it is very close to home, and we really do need to get on this as soon as possible.